I said we need you, yes we do. We need you right now. I said man has gotten out of hand with his evil ways, yeah. Can't you see that he is destroying us? Just a little bit more each and every day. So Master, won't you please come down and give us, Lord have mercy, a helping hand. Hey, 'cause we need you. We need you right now. Right now, hey, right now, Lord, we need you, Lord. Hey, we need you right now. Say we need you, we need you. We need you right now. We need you right now. Yeah. We need you right now. Yes, we do. Need you right now. Hey, say we need you right now. Hey, say we need you. Yeah, say we need you. Thank you, Lord. Right now. Yeah, yeah.
And now back to Ask Pastor Deb on WOSDRadio.com.
Welcome back to Ask Pastor Deb, and this has been a rough week, as I said at the beginning of the show, and God is still amazing. There's a shifting going on in the atmosphere. Just at the peak of talking and trying to figure out all of this stuff about corona virus and COVID-19 and everything, we were now faced with another pandemic, epidemic, whatever you want to call it, just a ridiculous thing that this country is still battling with in 2020, and it should not be. And that's just pure racism. And you know what? Bias against humanity. We are biased against each other. Black, white, purple, green, pink, whatever color you are, whoever you are, whatever religion you are. All we do is fight all the time about stuff that has no substance, because God is God, and God will always be God. God is I am. God is God. And so let me continue on with the comparison I was talking about with these mothers. And like I said before, I chose to talk about Eric Gardner's mom because to me, she is the perfect person to go to in this situation, because just like George Floyd cried out, "I can't breathe," Eric Gardner was the first to cry out, "I can't breathe," and caused the people in his state of New York to riot and, have just do things, protest non-peacefully and tear up and burn up and do, things that I feel are not necessary to get your point across, or to make sure that the police officers are going to be charged appropriately and that they will pay for the crime that they committed, burning and looting and tearing up and getting on social media and, just talking about what you wouldn't do and what you wouldn't take. And if it was you, that's not the answer. And that's not what God is looking for us to do. He has left us instructions. He wanted us to, be able to sustain ourselves in times of trouble and not to fall into the snares and the woes of the enemy. And so once again, I'm going to read this article. It says, although George Floyd's alleged murderers been arrested, his family still might not see justice served, according to Eric Gardner's mother, who's been down this very road. Gwen Carter tells TMZ she has her doubts about the system working in Floyd's favor because she went through this nightmare when her son was choked to death during his 2014 New York City arrest. Gwen says the cops involved in George's killing absolutely deserve to be held accountable, but she's warning Floyd's family not to bank on it because she sees it as a roll of the dice in these cases. Eric's mother tells us she's pleased Derek Shalvin, whatever his name is, the fire cop who pressed his knee into Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, has been charged with murder. However, she also believes Minneapolis police were playing politics when they fired and arrested Shalvin. Gwen says more needs to be done to stop widespread riots, and while she's not promoting or condoning the violence, she tells us she understands folks' frustration as well, all too well. She's been there. As you know, the footage of Eric's death infamously captured his final words, "I can't breathe." His mom says she thought it was a slam dunk that involved officers would be charged with murder because her son was killed on camera. But only one cop was ever arrested, and all charges were eventually dropped. Eric's daughter, Emerald Gardner, tells TMZ police would think twice about killing unarmed Black people if there were laws strong for cops involved in incidents like Gardner's and Floyd's. I guess that's what she was saying. Eric's mother added some friendly advice for the Floyd family. She encouraged them to not sit on the sidelines and let law enforcement handle the case. Gwen says in her experience, George's loved ones must speak out to anyone who will lend an ear, especially lawmakers, and adds they should not be discouraged by the uphill battle they're already facing. The mother of Eric Gardner, the unarmed black man whose high-profile death at the hands of police in 2014 sparked widespread protests, addresses hundreds of demonstrators in New York on Friday demanding action against police brutality in the wake of George Floyd's death. The Washington Post reports that Gwen Carr addressed a crowd in Foley Square a day after more than 70 protesters were arrested in the area. Carr, speaking through a megaphone and wearing an I Can't Breathe mask, said the death of Floyd echoed that of her son. They have to stop coming into our neighborhoods and brutalizing, terrorizing, murdering, she said. It just keeps happening over and over again. Carr called for people to take a stand. Gardner was held in a chokehold by police in Staten Island on July 17, 2014, who claimed they were attempting to arrest him for selling untaxed cigarettes. He was heard saying, "I can't breathe," before he died. The same words Floyd spoke as an officer kept a knee to his neck before he died on Monday. Video of Floyd's arrest in Minneapolis, Minnesota, circulated earlier this week. Floyd's death has sparked massive protests in Minneapolis and other major cities, calling for an end to police brutality. Earlier this week, Carr told CNN the video of Floyd's death felt like deja vu. It's hard enough we're coming up on the anniversary of my son's death, and now to hear about this young man, it's like deja vu, said Carr. It's just like the murder of my son all over again. He was basically the same age as Eric. Wow. And then it goes on to tell you to look at the video, and it talks about, she said, they outright murdered that young man, she continued. No matter what he did, wasn't doing anything to threaten them. So why would they kill that young man, just like they killed my son? And the officer who put Gardner in a chokehold was fired, but never charged. And he has since been charged since this article was written. The officer who was seen kneeling on Gardner's officer was not charged. That's what that is saying. Sorry. And it says the officer who was seen kneeling on Floyd was charged with murder and manslaughter on Friday. He was fired earlier in the week along with 3 other officers. Eric Gardner's mom says seeing a black man plead, "I can't breathe," it's like a reoccurring nightmare. Can you imagine? I can't imagine, because I was able to call my son after all this stuff happened, and I was able to talk to him, and I was able to tell him how much I loved him, and I was able to embrace him saying, "Mama, I know it's hard." I heard his voice. I was able to hear him breathe. Oh my God. I could just remember hearing that tape and everything that George was saying. He said, "Please, I can't breathe." He said, "My stomach hurts." He said, "My neck hurts." And he said, "Everything hurts." And these were his last words that I heard before he called out for his mama. "They're going to kill me." That's what George Floyd said. It's very heartbreaking to hear about the continuous cycle of violence